And get this meeting started of the Delaware County Solid Waste Management Authority this day, Tuesday, November 14th, 2007. We're starting our regular session here at 3:30 today. That's a big smile over there from Commissioner Cowan. She must be ready to rock and roll. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Cowan, can you please lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Cowan? Here. Commissioner Naffa?
Here.
Commissioner Greeno?
Here.
Vice Chair Howard?
Yes. All right. We're going to move straight away into public comment period. Any member of the public may address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. After receiving recognition from the chair, please give your name and address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Good. My name's David Slagle. I'm a resident of Crescent City. We wanted to announce today I'm the interim CEO, CFO for Hambro Forest Products and Hambro WSG. We've researched over the last, since the end of September, the opportunity of getting into the CRV business. So we've had, myself and another manager have attended, and we've received the training to become certified. We've made some other investigations, and we're going to enter the business. So it's going to be a relatively expensive deal getting started in it, and there are good things and bad things about that. But we're looking forward to it. We plan to set up a collection site at the fairgrounds. We've talked to the fairgrounds people. We'll then collect the items there. We'll take them down to the mill site where we're setting up a baler or a crusher to do what needs to be done. Then we'll be transporting the product out of the area. So it's going to be a learning process for us, but as a press release we just passed out to the newspaper, Hambro Forest Products was started way back in the 60s when there were teepee burners all over Del Norte and Humboldt counties. Personally, I like to see the old teepee burners. It reminds me of the old days, but it wasn't the most efficient way to dispose of excess wood product. So there was a commodity that had some value. They turned it into a pretty good business for a long time. So we're back in the business of taking a commodity that doesn't have a lot of value, and we're going to try to maximize that and bring some revenue to our company and some jobs back to Del Norte County. So,
Outstanding, David. Commissioner comments. We don't normally do this during public comment, but I think it's worth our weighing in. Go ahead, Lori, if you've got anything great to say.
Just great news. I mean, I'm glad to hear that. It's definitely needed here. We're a small community and we're so isolated from everything else, and it was a big fear to everybody. That's the comments I'm getting and the phone calls I was getting. So this is going to alleviate a lot of the fear in our community and help us to stay on track with where we need to be. So I really, for one, appreciate your efforts.
and all the rural counties, the meetings we attended, the MODOCs and Sierra counties, it's a major problem, and Cal Recycle continues to work on the issues. You're not going to make it on scrap handling. The commodities market are up and down. We're going to have to be efficient enough for the handling fees and processing fees that are we will gain by turning in those CRV items, then coming back to us. It's a very small portion, like a penny, an item, so it's not very much. So we're going to have to be efficient. We're going to need support from the community, and we're going to try to get the word out. Our start date, we hope, January 2nd, we'll be open at the fairgrounds collecting cans and bottles.
Commissioner Greeno.
We really appreciate you guys taking this risk and stepping into this market and filling a need that the community has. That's awesome.
Okay, the board, we had a board of directors meeting this morning, and they were concerned about the risk as well.
So
We think we've got good numbers, and we're ready to go.
awesome.
Commissioner Naffa.
Yes, again, we're glad that you're being able to do this. As soon as Jalindra had closed, I went down to McKinleyville because that was the closest, and it was not a good experience because, I'd rather have something close by here. So I'm glad that you're going to be doing it here. So I'm guessing that it would be the glass bottles, the cans, and the plastic bottles?
Everything that has the CRV stamp on it.
Okay.
The aluminum, the plastic bottles up to a certain size and different prices per item depending on the size of the item. It's a learning process for us
Sure.
as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Well, I read here on your announcement, January 2nd, 2018.
That's our date.
That's a heck of a goal, guys, and we wish you the best of luck in getting there. Let us know how we could assist, because I'm sure the director would jump for joy in doing just that.
Thank you.
Yes, if I might jump on your comment. The Cal Recycle has recently opened up a new program looking at pilot programs. And as the board members are well aware, even though we've lost our only buyback in Crescent City, it's really never been very convenient for the residents of Klamath and Smith River and Gasky to try to get their beverage containers redeemed. And so I intend on exploring the potential for trying to establish a pilot program where we might have mobile collections and be able to have redemption of those beverage containers at least one day a week in each of those communities.
Excellent. And Director Ward, I don't know if this is a good segue, but since you brought up Cal Recycle, it's my understanding we do have somebody from Cal Recycle in the audience. Love to hear from him during this period of public comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Howard, and if I may approach the bench, I have
Absolutely.
a token for you. This is CalMax Notepad, now defunct program, and this pencil is made out of money.
Wonderful.
that-
You sure I can't wash this and all of a sudden dollar bills appear? Because our budgets are pretty tight.
You can do your best.
Okay.
CalMax is a defunct program, but it kind of preceded Craigslist and FreeCycle. It was an online forum and a print edition for exchanging materials. And my name is Spencer Fine. I represent Cal Recycle. I'm up here for a site visit tomorrow to take a tour of the county government programs. I'm meeting with Richard Mello of the Roads Division, and he's kind enough to show me around. I work with Ted Ward. He submits the annual report on behalf of Crescent City and Del Norte County Solid Waste Management Authority. And I'm here to offer any kind of help, assistance, answer any questions that I can. And that's great news about the buyback center. If I can just leave one subject in the back of your minds for the next 2 years, Del Norte is a rural county. They are exempt from AB 1826, which is the mandatory organics recycling law, and it's trying to divert food waste from the landfill, and just something to start thinking about for the future. And it doesn't have to be a fancy AD facility. It can be anything from an on-site operation to donating food scraps to farmers, to having an earth tub on site. And Cal Recycle has options that willing to explore. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to hearing in the meeting. Thank you.
Any of the commissioners have questions? We do.
I would just want to say I met with Lori a couple years ago. She was very instrumental in the school recycling program, so it's great to see her on the board here.
She's pretty active up here. We'd like to have her.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time, Mr.
Thank
Fine,
you.
and thank you for coming to our community. All right, public comment. Ms. Cooper with her Dr. Seuss Cat in the Hat outfit on today.
Better?
There we go.
Okay. We're going to have a recycling center, and so I think that we need to do everything we can as a community to support that. And obviously, we need to get the contamination rate down to help Hambros. And one of the a very simple thing we could do that occurred to me after speaking with Joel is that there's a problem in that he makes recommendations to large families that they should get the large can because they're going to need it. Only they don't get the large can, they opt for the cheap small can. And so it would be to their assistance and our advantage if we made it a requirement that families of 4 or more individuals are required to get the large can, instead of making everybody get the large can. And that is a possibility that seems pretty simple to me. We need to, continue an in-depth investigation of the problems and what the simplest solutions would be to the contamination. So, another issue which I thought of might be seen as a tax, but maybe it wouldn't be. If everybody in the community was required to pay for trash service. Now, it wouldn't have to be pickup. You could still do self-haul, but every residence would be required either you get a card that you, up to a certain amount of pounds that you have to pay per year, every residence that's occupied in the county, and you choose in areas that have the pickup service, you can opt for that. In areas that don't, you get the self-haul, and you get the Stickum card. And then when you go to the transfer station with the Stickum card, you don't pay, you've already paid up front. And perhaps if everyone was paying into the system that way, the fees could actually go down, and the people who are paying right now would actually support that, because the base would be broader and the fees may come down. But it's something that you might want to have analyzed. Anyway, just another idea. We need more ideas. Thank you.
Thanks for your thoughts, Ms. Cooper. Any further public comment? All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to our consent agenda. We're going to pull item 1.3 and reconsider that after we discuss item 3.1 on our agenda today. So let's take up consent on 1.1, 1.2, and 1.4 only. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar minus 1.3.
A second.
We have a motion, a second. Public comment on the consent calendar. Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and bring it back to the commission. Please pull the vote.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Vice Chair Howard?
Yes. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into the treasurer's report, which are agenda items 2.1 through 2.5. Director Ward?
Yes, so our account balances continue to grow apace, and our accounts receivable, once again, is in fine shape thanks to our administrative assistant, Kathy Brewer. Regarding claims paid by director, once again, you'll see that the largest payment goes to Hambro WSG for their good services they provide at the Delaware County Transfer Station, and we also have the payment to Clean Harbors for the annual hazardous waste collection event. In the coming month, I plan on, at the request of the Board of Supervisors, attending an ESJPA meeting on December 7th. We'll be discussing that later in the agenda. As I implied before, we will be exploring the potential for preparing a grant application to CalRecycle for a possible pilot collection program, working with Hambro WSG. That's not a commitment. We're exploring that and see whether or not it would work and if it's a good fit. And before we would submit such an application, it would definitely come back to the board. And then finally, Jeremy Herber was not able to attend this meeting, but we've been discussing ways that we might be able to reduce the contamination, the amount of trash that's in our recycling stream. And at this point in time, the chances are we will be discussing that at this next coming meeting in December. But right now, the best idea that we have that would be relatively easy to implement would be a requirement that if plastic bags of any kind are placed in the recycling bin, they would have to be transparent plastic bags, which are available at Home Depot and Safeway. But part of the problem, as you're all aware, is that there's too much trash being placed in the recycling bins. And if it's in a black plastic trash bag, then you can't really tell what's inside of it. But if it was in a clear plastic bag, the driver would be able to tell immediately whether it was a clear or a black plastic bag. And a black plastic bag would be part of the outreach that would be presumed to be garbage and would be an immediate violation. So it's a one immediate way that we can start ratcheting down on the contamination that we know that's there without dramatically changing the program. So that's something for discussing next time.
Supervisor?
Quick
Yes?
question. So they're in the bag, the trucks are coming and pulling it.
Mhm.
Are they going to pre-check the recycling? Are they going to open up every one to look to see if there's black bags in there?
No.
How are
What
they
they'll
gonna-
do is it lifts and dumps, they
They'll
will
see it.
see the black plastic bag,
And
and
then
that
they
would
will
tag the
tag
can.
them?
That's right.
Okay.
And it would be just like if they saw any other piece of trash that was
Okay.
visible there. But again, that's for the board's discussion and decision at the upcoming meeting, but I thought I'd plant that seed to let you know, one, that we are talking about these issues, and that I think there's an approach that we can take that is the next step in terms of outreach and education to our community. Regarding the monthly cash and charge reports, again, our finances are generally in good shape, and that's demonstrated by the earned revenue comparisons. On item 2.4, you'll see that our authority service fees at the Delaware County Transfer Station and our other facilities are over $50,000 ahead of budget, which is pretty good for 4 months into the fiscal year. And our franchise fees are a little over $5,000 ahead of budget. That's also to be expected, as the summer months generally are the busier months, so we will expect to see sort of lower profit margins in the coming months. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are on the treasurer's report.
One comment on the treasurer's report, specifically concerning the accounts aging. And this is, I don't know how to approach this other than saying, is there any way we can make a more friendly stamp on those accounts that are aging past a certain date, instead of the big red stamp that's pretty offensive to some people, I guess?
Okay, do you have a suggestion? What
Yeah,
should we?
big red smiley face maybe, or, I've actually had a conversation with two folks that are on our list here.
Uh-huh.
And, it's a small town, small community, word travels around. Obviously, a lot of these folks pay their bills on time, and sometimes the month gets tough. But, maybe a more friendly reminder. You're a little past your date. So a red smiley face, I don't know, whatever creative method, but the large stamp, I guess, that currently comes
The
on there.
red past due stamp is a
That
little
is
too harsh,
muy
is
grande.
what I'm hearing.
Just maybe, let's take another look at that if we can.
Okay. We will.
I'll let
we will
that at your
discuss that.
discretion. Believe it or not, that is a concern to some folks.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because we hadn't heard that.
I love to
That's great.
share. All right,
And I had a question.
one more.
Under the claims on the second page, I was just wondering exactly what the invoice was for the Clean Harbors Environmental Services.
That was for the household hazardous waste collection event that we
Okay.
do annually. And that was actually on the previous agenda for board approval, because anything above $5,000 actually has to have board approval.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, looks like we're ready to move on then. Let's go to discussion and action items, and let's take up landfill post-closure, which is item number 3.1 on our agenda, which is discuss and take possible action regarding change order 1 in the amount of $14,072.12 for repair and replacement of the drainage structures. Let's also include then with this item, item number 1.3, which is to approve payment of the claim to Hemmingson Construction for invoice 008160 in the amount of $14,072.1.
Excellent. So last month, I briefed the board on a fire that we had at the Crescent City landfill, and that we intended and have prepared a change order to include the cost for those repairs with our contract with Hemmingson Construction, who was already out there doing erosion-related repairs. So these are pictures of the fire. There's the areas that were damaged. There are 3 repair areas associated with the erosion. This is the first of those. This is in this area here. So I'm showing some of the repairs that have gone on. That's the north pond that's over here.
Can you explain?
Sure.
When you're talking fire repairs, what are they doing? Are they scraping? Are they?
There were 2 projects associated with this. The first was the erosion repair associated with the storms from last winter that were declared to be a statewide emergency. And so we were approved and applied through OE, Office of Emergency Services, that those, a substantial portion of those repair costs would be reimbursed through the Office of Emergency Services. Then we had the fire in October, and we tacked on the additional repairs. So I'm actually showing repairs that covered both of those things, both the stormwater erosion repairs and the fire repairs.
I get that, but I'm just trying to guess, I just want to know, for my own personal curiosity, when the fire happened, what type of repairs needed to be done?
Right. The biggest ones were repairs to the drainage structures. There was a down drain that actually melted.
Yeah.
And part of the concern about getting this done quickly, and I very much appreciate Keira Seymour, who was our boots on the ground working with Hemmingson to get that done. But essentially our biggest concern was the oncoming rains. And because we do regularly experience and repair erosion damage at the landfill, having that fire and destroying some of the drainage structures created the potential for aggravated erosion. And so that's one of the things that we needed to address quickly. So this is part of the initial stormwater-related repairs. It's in this area. That was not an area impacted by the fire. This is the road on the back side. It's the steep road, and it's a regular area of erosion damage. And so you'll see that they replaced, they added a drainage pipe, drain rock over the top of that, and a down drain structure to take some of the water outside the road so that it's not continuing to erode down this drainage channel. This is looking up at that road repair area, and this is a third repair area that's on the west side of the landfill. So this is that down drain that burnt.
That was all melted.
And here you can see it's repaired, and it's now got grass seed and hay over it, and again, our staff did that. So in general, the repairs are nearly complete. They have a few more days' work, but in general, they've performed very well, and in some ways, it was tremendously fortunate that we already had Hemmingson under contract so that those repairs could be done quickly. So staff recommend that we approve change order 1 in the amount of $14,072.12 for repair and replacement of the drainage structures, and also approve payment of a claim to Hemmingson Construction in the amount of $14,072.12.
I make a motion to approve item 3.1.
I'll second that.
What?
And
And 1.3.
Oh, and 1.3.
I'll second that as well.
thank you very much. Let's go open it up for public comment.
Eileen Cooper, I have just a comment in general about the transfer station and some damage that I saw. I mean, not the old landfill site.
Thank you.
And the damage I saw out there the previous summer when I was doing restoration work out there. And I wondered about it, bring it to your attention. But it appeared that our roads way in the back out there had been ripped up, something terrible, like heavy equipment, tremendous damage from heavy equipment going back into the less well-kept roads because they're not used so much. And it looked like it was done to bring in maybe piles of soil, or for what reason, I don't know. But they did rip up the roads, something terrible back there, and I would suggest that we never let heavy equipment back in there in when it's really wet back there where they can do so much damage. But I did see, you know, a very avoidable damage done. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Any further public comment? Okay, we'll bring it back to the commission.
Yeah, before we voted on this, I wanted to find out as far as insurance, if we put a claim.
We do not have that kind of insurance, or any insurance that would cover the fire.
Okay, thanks.
Usually, and when we did investigate, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, such insurance coverage generally has a very high deductible, so I would be surprised if this met that level of deductible, even if we had such insurance.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Since this is a money matter, we've got a motion, a second on the table. Let's poll the vote.
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Vice Chair Howard?
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and move to item 4.1 on our agenda, discuss and possible ratification of processing agreement between Recology Del Norte and Recology Humboldt for processing of Del Norte's recyclables.
So this is a slideshow of a tour that we took last month, and Commissioners Naffa and Cowan accompanied staff as we looked at the Recology Humboldt facility. So this is sort of the entrance and the loadout bays. Those 4 squares on the bottom are essentially loading docks where trucks can back up and then load up bales of material. So the recyclables are unloaded and stockpiled. Stockpiles of mixed recyclable materials are loaded onto conveyors. You can see the mixed recyclables there on the image on the right side of the image on the left, and they're loaded onto conveyors. The facility was originally built to process containers and papers as separate recycling streams, but everybody who's bringing materials to this facility is collecting those as mixed streams. So one of the first steps in this process is separating out the containers and the paper fibers. So sorting and conveyors separate the containers from the paper. Sorting areas are enclosed with workers sorting materials into chutes, and the accumulated sorted materials accumulate in the bunkers below. So here you can see some of the bunkers accumulating materials below the workstations. They use the same side stroke baler for nearly all of the materials being sorted through the facility, and the bales are stockpiled prior to shipping, and they go out the door as we saw. So that's a much larger facility than our county alone could ever afford, and I actually think that it's a good sign of the quality of our contract, that Recology could use our contract as leverage of one more reason why they needed to look at buying that processing facility. So that processing facility is, of course, providing service to us, but the bulk of the materials that are processed are from their Humboldt collections franchises.
Very good.
So there's no action actually required, but I can assure the board that this processing agreement does meet the requirements of Section 5.12A of the Collections Franchise Agreement, and at the board's discretion, you can ratify this agreement or not. I didn't see anywhere in the agreement where the board has to approve it, but you can if you want. Ratifying just means that it meets the form and it's acceptable.
How does the board wish to move forward with this ratification or not move forward, depending on how you feel? Do you feel you need to ratify this? Are you comfortable with the agreement?
I know Ted was saying that next, since Jeremy's not here, that we will be discussing the contamination next month. So to me, it seems logical if we address both at the same time.
Okay, the processing agreement is merely acknowledging that they have a processor, that there's a place where the materials are being processed and they have a contractual relationship with it. The contamination issue is really between us and Recology. And this processing agreement is between Recology Del Norte and Recology Humboldt.
It's just that Section 9 is addressing contamination, and it's talking about the 10%.
And that was an area of great discussion as we were trying to negotiate this, and essentially, we reached the understanding that nobody wants to shut the doors in terms of the material moving through Humboldt. However, the contamination issue is a serious one, and so we need to be able to continue that discussion until we reach an acceptable level of contamination, and that's pretty much what is in that provision.
I know, but the way it's worded, it's almost like, well, we'll do the best we can, and they'll see what's coming down, and, they'll evaluate it, like, I think 60 days or something like that, and so on and so forth. It doesn't, like, say that definitely we have a processor that's going to be taking care of our needs, we don't have to be worried, and that's what worries me slightly, because I hate to have the door closed on us, and then where do we go?
So if we don't have consensus on this item, then I would suggest that we move it to our meeting in December for ratification, and hopefully Mr. Herber will be at that meeting and we could have further discussion on addressing some of the commission's concerns. Is that
Yep.
okay with you, Director?
That would be fine.
How about with the remaining commissioners?
I won't be at the next meeting, but I trust that all you guys will make the right decision.
Big smile.
I agree, we should hold off on this.
Very good. All right, we're going to go ahead and hold off on this, Director. Go ahead and agendize this for our December meeting.
Okay.
Appreciate your time in getting this forward to us.
Yep.
All right, let's move to public comment. Thank you for the reminder.
Yes, the slides you showed reminded me of something. That's why they call it integrated waste management. One of the biggest issues with the recycling stream contamination in all communities, upon doing research on the internet, is that lumping everything together is a problem. When at first they thought we would make it so easy for consumers to recycle by you don't have to separate, and that the recycling rate would go up. Well, that panned out for a very short time, but in the long haul, they found that because of contamination, there isn't a net gain in recycling when you go to a completely mixed stream in the long run. And so some communities, rather than making it entirely separated, they've gone to a dual stream. And this slide illustrated that the first step that the recycling center, the processing center has to deal with is separating the paper things from the other goods. And it is the paper that very much gets contaminated with moisture issues, and for some reason, the paper gets contaminated when it's in a mixed stream. And you do have to go through that whole extra step. So for the recycling center, for our processor, and for us, I think we ought to bring forward an idea of dual stream. It's not like every other, you don't have to go through another trip, but like the even weeks could be paper, the odd weeks could be, 2 weeks paper, 2 weeks other things. But get that part squared away. That seems like it would benefit both our contamination rate and help the processor. So I look into it. It's another good idea.
Thank you. Further public comment? Great. We're going to go ahead and move forward with item number 5, which is transfer station Discuss impossible acceptance of the contract proposed by American Restore for transfer station floor and ramp repair project for the amount not to exceed $165,030.03.
$60.
Mine says 30.
Mine says 30.
Oh, mine says 165,6003. This is looking straight on the staff report?
Is it 3003? I probably transposed a number there.
No worries. It's all game.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 42.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's once, the staff report says 60 and then
The bid, though, itself.
Yeah, it's just the
Yeah.
staff report that's wrong. The agenda is correct. It's 165,030.03.
Thanks for that clarification,
Thank you.
Commissioner Naffa. We will reflect that the agenda and is correct at 165.30
Right.
and 3 cents. All right, please proceed.
Yes, so staff released an invitation to bid and published the required public notices for this project. The bid deadline was the 1st of November, and at that time, we had not received any bids. On the 6th of November, we did receive a submittal from American Restore, and it was a response proposal that would have been an acceptable bid had it been received before the bid deadline. Because no bids were received, the authority is authorized by law to contract directly with the contractor of its choice to perform the work. Therefore, staff recommend that the authority board approve the proposal submitted by American Restore and authorize signatures on the contract documents. The bid package includes the plans, specifications, and bid requirements, and by accepting American Restore's proposal, this floor and ramp repair project can be completed this winter. So staff recommendation is to approve the proposal from American Restore for an amount of $165,030.03.
All right, we have a recommendation from staff. How does the board feel? Commissioner?
I did want to ask a question because it's not included in this packet. I know we had addressed all of this before, but what was the engineer's estimate?
An excellent question, and I should have brought that with me. It was in the ballpark. That's what I recall. I think it was about 170, but I'm not recalling immediately. So I can
Okay,
bring that
so
to
in
the
other
next
words,
meeting.
this does not exceed.
I don't think it
engineer's
exceeds it.
estimate.
It's right in the ballpark.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Further questions for the director? Okay, let's go ahead and open up public comment. Are you sure? All right, we'll bring it back to the board. Do I have a motion on the table?
I move that we accept the contract proposed by American Restore for the transfer station floor and ramp repair project in the amount of $165,000, $30, well, let me say that. $165,000, 30 and 3 cents.
Understood. Very clear.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Vice Chair Howard?
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and move to item number 6. 6.1 is discussing possible action regarding improving travel expense for authority director to attend meetings of the Environmental Services Joint Powers Authority of the Regional Council of Rural Counties. This request came from Supervisor Jerry Hemmingson. We are members of RCRC, the commission is, and Supervisor felt one of the last meetings he attended specific on this topic was definitely more suited for the director, and more importantly, the director paying attention to what's going on at the state level. And because the Joint Power Authority had a great deal of connection down there in Sacramento, it would be well worth our expense, specific to travel, to have him there with his ear to the floor of Sacramento and what is happening in our world. So it would be my recommendation to make sure that Director Ward is able to attend, but obviously it's up to the commission's purview. But there's a lot going on in the state, not only are the recycling, but other things that we do need to pay attention to because it affects our small little county.
I spoke with Director Mary Pitto of the Rural County Representatives of California, and they've already set their meetings for the next year. So full attendance of the meetings is somewhat dependent on when this board's meetings are scheduled. So the next one's December 7th. There's no problem. I plan on attending that. But in December, in 2018, their meetings are generally the third Thursday of the month, which is just a couple days after ours. So it might warrant reconsideration about when we set the regular meeting dates in the coming year. But staff recommendation is the authority board approve of having the NSWAMA director appointed by Del Norte County as an alternate to the RCRC board. What Mary explained was that as staff, we can't sit on the actual RCRC Rural County Representatives of California board, but we can sit on the board of the Environmental Services Joint Powers Authority, which is where all the solid waste and recycling issues are discussed. So having the authority director appointed by Del Norte County as an alternate to the RCRC board and to serve as Del Norte's representative on the ESJPA board and to authorize associated travel expenses.
Excellent. Out of curiosity, travel expenses.
They're not going to be much, but my parents still live in Sacramento, so it'll just be
I love the parent thing.
driving to and from or occasional air flights depending upon what's cheapest.
Even better. Well, you have my recommendation, you have the director's recommendation.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve our executive director being a member of the RCRC Environmental Services Joint Point, well, here it says, yeah, JPA. And as a result, that he would be able to attend their meetings in Sacramento quarterly.
Second that.
A motion, a second on being tongue-tied for today.
Yeah, it says here points, it should be powers, Joint Powers Authority in the email.
It should be Joint Powers Authority, yes.
Yeah, it
Let's
says-
go ahead and open this up to public comment. Okay, seeing none. Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board. Let's pull the vote.
Commissioner Cowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Vice Chair Howard?
Yes, thank you. All right, item 6.2, discuss some possible action regarding canceling the regular authority meeting of November 21st, 2017. Director?
Since we've had a meeting this month and covered the items to be covered in a regular meeting, there doesn't seem to be an additional need for a meeting next week.
And I don't believe there's necessary to have another meeting next week unless you feel strongly that because you're missing in December, you really want to have another meeting this month.
I'll be gone, so you guys are more than welcome to have a meeting next week as well.
Yeah, from my recollection, that's why we set up the meeting this week, because
Correct.
it's a holiday week next week.
Everybody's gone.
It is.
Do you need a motion on that, or?
Do we need
consensus?
action?
I make a motion to go ahead and cancel the regular authority meeting that was scheduled for November 21st.
I'll
Second.
second that.
We have a
Okay.
motion and a second. Mr. Naffa seconded that. Okay, public comment? Very good. We'll bring it back to the board. We have consensus?
Yes.
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 All right. Motion carries. All right, we're going to adjourn to closed session for a public employees performance evaluation. You're all certainly welcome to stick around and wait for our smiling faces to return to report out. But if not, we'll see you in December.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Okay.